Welcome to your Daily 5 for Wednesday, April 9th, 2025. I think I've mentioned before that I have been a longtime fan of the 1990 to 1995 television series Northern Exposure, and that one of the things that has really annoyed me up until very recently is you were not able to get a copy of this show that contained the original licensed music that was in it. Northern Exposure, like a lot of shows around this time period, really post-Miami Vice, utilized licensed music, popular songs in many cases, for a lot of the episodes that ended up being a lot of what made many episodes so good. And instead, up until, again, the Blu-rays were released, I want to say maybe 3-4 years ago, you could only either stream or purchase DVDs that had this terrible temp track replacement music that did not fit the episodes, did not have any of the emotional weight, and really just brought the whole show down. But finally, you can get it with, as far as I can tell, if not all the music, all the important music put back in, and on Blu-ray, so you get it in a really good quality. And my wife and I just completed watching it. Now, I've seen the show a couple of times over my life, although I'm going to increase it now that the music is available again. And my wife had never seen it, and she ended up being probably not as big a fan of the show as I am, because I really do love this show, but she really did like it. We had a good time with it, and it will probably be part of our regular rotation of shows to watch. If you've never heard of it, and a lot of people haven't, even if people who were around when it was on, this show tends to get forgotten. But the basic premise is that a New York City doctor who had thought that he was going to go work in a major city in Alaska is more or less kind of, I wouldn't say kidnapped, but he finds out that he had signed a contract that allowed him to go work in this exceptionally small town run by a very rich ex-astronaut who is trying to build up this town as kind of, he keeps calling it the future Alaskan Riviera. And so he's forced to work in this very small town full of quirky characters, and it's very much a fish out of water story for the main character, whose name is Joel Fleischman, for almost the entirety of the show's run. And the show is structured generally as a dramedy, a drama and comedy, but it does at times become very serious. It does tackle some serious topics, particularly in terms of Joel and his Judaism and how he feels like he's kind of separated from his culture. Also, just his culture clash with people of Alaska who are far more relaxed than a New York City doctor would be. And that's where much of the humor and the kind of, again, the fish out of water concept comes from. But it also, the show manages to create and sustain these really interesting characters, all of whom feel like they've known each other for a long time, which outside of the doctor they have, but also have these very kind of quirky and individual styles. It feels a little bit like there's a sprinkle of Twin Peaks on there. And in terms of the weirdness of the town and that nobody really reacts to it, there's a lot of Native American themes. You see a lot of Native actors. There's a lot of Native culture that's brought into the show, which I think is something that was not typical for the time and still doesn't feel all that typical. And I think it's handled generally really well. There's just a number of reasons that I think this show is so much better than most people remember it. And I think some of that is because in season 5 and 6, there was some turbulence behind the scenes. The showrunner was changed. The executive producer was changed. Some of the original writers left. And so people have this memory of the last 2 seasons being almost entirely awful. And while they are definitely different, I don't think they're anywhere near as bad as many reviewers seem to think. In fact, I think this has one of the best show finales that I can think of, period. So I would not go by those reviews if you've ever looked at them, or if you've heard, well, yeah, it was good up front and then it got awful. It really doesn't. It does change. There is some tonal shiftiness here and there, but that's true even in the earlier seasons when they were finding their footing. So I don't think it's certainly nowhere near as bad in the late seasons as people make it out to be. It does have a different tone, but it still has enough. It has the important kind of heart that sustained it in there enough that it carries you to the finale. And again, I just love the finale. I think it's one of the best final episodes of a show that I can think of. So I would absolutely say if you've never watched this show, I just don't know if it's available to stream or not. I would have to think it is. No, it is. I saw it on a couple of different streamers. It is available to stream. I have the Blu-rays, which I'm glad because they just look fantastic, and now all the music is back in. And I hope that the streaming versions do as well, but they may not. If you can find a version of this with the music in there, by all means watch it. Like I said, it seems to get forgotten by people, and I really think that's unfair because there's a lot of forgettable shows from this time period, ones that you could just not even bother ever watching again. But Northern Exposure is not one of them. Later.